What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Roofr Masterclass. I'm your host, Pete, with my co-host, Nick, and we are back with another great masterclass today. We're kind of excited about this one, right, Nick? We did this study. Our team did a little survey not that long ago here and got some numbers from some homeowners and some perspective. If you guys have not looked at that report, it is on our website, but we will be kind of covering that today, right, Nick?
Yeah, it's super cool. I think a year ago we did an industry report kind of going over roofers, what they're using and stuff like that. And we had a lot of great conversations about it. We brought Ben Tiger in for it. And this one, I like even more. Like the other one was badass, but this one is going to tell us what we need to do from a roofing perspective. So, you know me, son of a roofer by trade. I really like to understand this modern day homeowner, what it's like. I'm in the process of a reno. I'm getting this firsthand experience right now on what does a homeowner want from their contractors. So I'm excited to dive into the numbers with everybody and really kind of see how we could action this in each one of our companies.
There's a good mix of homeowners covered in this. So you kind of get what we currently think of, or maybe what we used to think of as the type of homeowner that we were dealing with, and kind of like what the new homeowner is in each perspective of how they are thinking about working with a contractor and how they're approaching it. But let's get through our little housekeeping slides here to start with.
Of course, you got our hosts here, Mr. Pete McKendrick. Before we dive in, Pete, when are you going to legally change your name? Is the question.
Yeah, I should. I need like a license plate for my car, right? That says
yeah. I just want to see you get pulled over by the cops, and you just hand the license, and it says process Pete McKendrick.
You know who I am.
I am the Masterclass guy.
yeah. Have you never seen my Masterclass?
But yeah, we got process Pete McKendrick, and just regular old Nick over here. If you guys have any questions, just hit us up at our emails, Pete@Roofr and Nick@Roofr.com. All right. And I guess we can dive into everything, Pete.
I think the team has put together a slide here to kind of explain what we were trying to do with this. The idea behind this survey was to get some homeowner perspective of their interaction with the roofer, how they view the relationship and how they view the process. A survey conducted by a company called My Clear Opinion. We hired them as a third party to run this for us. 292 people across the United States who had roofing done in the past 2 years. So good to know that the majority of the people that were surveyed are people who recently were involved in the process and had a roof done. The range of home value and household incomes. And like I said, you actually will see as we start to move through this, that there's a range of customer type too. We have some older, I think Joel called them baby boomers in here, right? And then you have some millennial.
Offensive, Joel.
Yeah, I know. I kind of take it.
We're both offended, Joel. What I really love about this too is this is real data, real data from actual people surveyed from a bunch of different home values and household income. So it gives you actionable data. It's not just me and Pete just talking and saying hey, no, what homeowners want, they want you to be fast, race to face, speed to lead. Yeah. No, this stuff is actually going to do that. Now it may support what me and Pete have been saying for years, but this is real data that's put in. So we're not just doing it to make me and Pete sound smart.
Yeah. And I will say that there were some data points in here that surprised me a bit. Some of the stuff that Nick and I talk about, some of it actually ranked higher than others. And I was very interested in the way it kind of played out. So the breakdown of residence type, let's start there. 97% of the folks that were interviewed here own a single family home. We have a couple multifamily owners and managers kind of in the mix, but the majority of the folks that we talk to here are single family homeowners. 100% of those had a roofing project completed in the last 2 years. And what I found interesting is 63% of those homeowners were hiring a roofer for the first time, right? So a lot of people new to the process, experiencing it for the first time.
38% of these jobs were hired as a part of an insurance claim, which is really interesting too. So we're getting a good stretch between both retail and insurance. This is a really interesting one here too. 74% ranked responsiveness and communication above price. And I'm seeing this right now. I'm doing a lot of work inside this house. The electrician I went with was on the higher side of the quotes that I got, not the highest, but on the higher side of middle. But he was very responsive. He was very easy to talk to. He was educational, and his communication was top notch. And that made me feel comfortable. The interesting thing, and this part is not so much a shock to me, but this is a big thing when we're looking at the economy that we're dealing with right now, is that only 11% ranked lowest price as their top buying consideration. So this means that you just got to nail that customer experience, and then you can charge what you're worth. And I think that's very, very important. A lot of people say, like, what's the average price per square that I should be charging? It's like, no, you charge what you're worth. The average time of what you're worth is what you should be charging.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell the story of a visit I made to a fairly large roofing contractor out in the middle of Pennsylvania. We started to
Mhm.
talk about their price because their prices were high, right? Like they were quoting fairly high prices on their proposals. And I asked them about it. I said, how often do you guys get beat on price? And they said, hardly ever. And I said, well, how is that? Because you guys are probably one of the highest priced people around here. And they said, no, we actually are the highest priced person around here. But the reason that we don't get beat is because we own it. We go in and we tell them straight up, we are the highest priced roofer, and here's why. And then they name
Mhm.
all the reasons as to why you're getting value out of them that is commensurate with what they're offering, right? So when you look at their price and then they back it up by saying, this is why you're going to pay more for me, this is why I'm a premium contractor, then it makes sense. A lot of it is the experience, the communication, the professionalism, right? All these things come into play. And it's not necessarily about the price for the majority of the buyers. You know, you're living it firsthand, Nick. I lived it firsthand. I literally hired a guy without even asking him what the price was because he was the most responsive person. I didn't even ask him until the job was over how much it was going to cost me because he was just responsive. So he got it. In today's day and age, in my mind, there's no reason to not be responsive and proactive in your communication. I mean, we have tons of automation capabilities built into the product. Last couple events I spoke at, contractors raising their hand saying, like, we text everything now. We text our proposals. All our comms are texted, right? There's no excuse for any kind of a lag in communication from the contractor to the homeowner. If we're being proactive about it, we're being smart about it, we should be really winning on this. I think in a lot of markets, people still think it's a race to the bottom. And so, you know, this is a great indication that it's not.
Like Pete said, there's so many automations that you can build in. We have Roofr voice that you can get on the beta for as well. So you can answer the phone at any time. And that's a big thing. And those things are going to help you win at your price that you need to be at more often. And then you can start to choose who you want to work with, which is a hell of a lot better, because when you get the wrong customer, it's just a lot of problems there. So
Yeah, it's a great quote by Luke right there. His guy beat out another guy and with a $3,000 higher price ticket, you know, just based on the fact that they liked his salesman more.
a line that I always used to use when I was selling roofs that worked almost every single time when dealing with a price conversation. Ultimately, what I want you to understand, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, is that your roof is not just a roof. Your home is your biggest investment, and your roof is protecting that investment and everything inside. So, do we want to cheap out on that? Because once you see a leak, it didn't just start yesterday. That leak has gone through the shingles, the plywood, the insulation, and the drywall, and everything has been damaged all the way through. That plywood needs to be replaced. The insulation has lost its R value. The drywall needs to be replaced, and there's probably mold all in between there. So that's the cost of doing a real roofer. There's a price and there's a cost conversation.
Brian Mitchell, even though he's on the commercial side, he sets up his quotes in a certain way that I think is very interesting. And we could learn a lot, I think, on the retail side from it. He puts a problem, essentially, hey, this is what I found. He puts a solution, this is how we're going to fix it. And he puts a consequence. Like Nick just said, if you don't fix it, here's how much worse it's going to get if you let this ride. And then he presents all of that as his evidence, and it makes it obviously a much easier sale, right? You put the fear of God in them a little bit. Really cool, smart approach, I thought. So I just want to throw that out there. You guys can shamelessly steal that. I'm sure Brian will be fine with that.
Going on to the next topic here, and this is a big one that we always see online in the Facebook groups and stuff. It's all about door knocking and understanding, like, is it effective? And we've always talked, me and you, Pete, about scouting versus canvassing and everything else there. But it's pretty interesting to see the stats here. Me being, I consider myself an elder millennial, for sure. Like, we're not going to love door knockers because we're kind of like recluse and just kind of like want to be on our own. And everybody rings the doorbell, we think the alarm's going off. But we love the digital proposal.
Millennial.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, it totally makes sense there. The digital proposal is good. The first time home buyer is around 34 years old, 35 years old, and that millennial, and they're looking for that more tech savvy roofer. But what was interesting to me is baby boomers, they want to hear about the warranties and often prefer an in-person visit with a paper proposal.
I think it's the in-person, face-to-face kind of conversation that the baby boomer customer is still looking for, that the millennial isn't. I remember even back in the day when I was first selling CRM, I had a contractor say, "Will you come to my office and demo the CRM?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. You're like 45 minutes away. I'll drive over there." And sat down, did a demo just like I would over Zoom or whatever. And he bought it on the spot. And he said, "You know, the reason that I bought from you is because you're the only person that came here and physically sat down in my office and would do it. Everyone else told me they wouldn't do that." And so it was interesting, right? Because he was kind of this old school mentality, him being able to look me in the eye and know I wasn't lying to him, right? Like that kind of stuff was super important to his buying experience. And I think that we're seeing a transition more like with the millennials, like you said, you knock on the door and they like scatter and hide behind the furniture, right? Like they don't want to
Like cockroaches.
Yeah. It's like, who's at the door, right? Don't answer it, right? And yeah, so I think the times are changing a bit.
And the thing is, like, I don't want people to say, like, okay, well, in my area, there is a lot of baby boomers and not a lot of millennials, so I need to do everything in paper contract. But the thing with like a CRM, whether it's Roofr or something else, is that you can cater to both and be able to open up that door. If it is the in-person sales, the CRM is going to help you streamline your sales process, give you more time back so you can make those in-person visits. And I always tell people that I'm not trying to reinvent your wheel. I'm just trying to take those wood spokes and turn them into steel. Because ultimately, you guys could run more efficiently and longer with those steel spokes with a process that sends out automations and digital proposals and still allows you to do those intangible things by sitting down, explaining that workmanship warranty and being able to break it down piece by piece, but with a nice presentation style proposal. And if you do have that millennial, it's just like, dude, just send me a quote. Bing, bang, it's gone, it's sent, it's there. And that makes a big difference to people over the course of a sales cycle.
Yeah, and I think the reality of the situation is they're all looking for the same thing, right? They're all looking for that relationship, that trust factor. They're just going about it in a different way. So you still have to have the ability to kind of do the same thing. Your process still needs to be the same. It just might be, hey, we're knocking on the door and we're doing it face to face versus we're doing it over a really nice presentation style proposal, or we're doing it over Google reviews, or we're doing it over a really polished website. Like all of these ways that millennials are finding us and finding out about our company. That's just different, right? The baby boomers looking more for like, hey, I want to talk to my neighbor, see what they thought. I saw that they got the roof done by you. I want to talk to your sales guy in person, right? So it's all the same thing happening. It's just happening in a different way. And you need to be able to kind of, like Nic said, you can kind of do both, right? Like you can cover both. And there's going to be pieces of it that are going to play well with both parties.
It ties directly to this, which is to your point, Pete. 66% of the people that we surveyed there rank having a professional proposal and estimate as their top trust factor. Whether you are a millennial or a baby boomer or Gen Xer, everything in between, that proposal is going to build that trust. So it's going to transcend everything else there. And then you could add in things like your license and certifications, your online reviews, your overall personal connection can all be tied into that. So you can have an About Us page that Roofr can build for you to break down and sell your value before you sell them the product's value, and be able to show your reputation throughout that. And that's the interesting thing that ties and kind of intersects between all generations that you're selling to.
Yeah. And what I love about this is our proposal, for instance. But yes, it's a professional presentation style proposal, but it can include all of these other things that are on this list, right? You can throw your reviews in there or links to your reviews. You can throw your certifications. You can put in there testimonials from other customers, right? So you can add all this stuff in here to where you can cover all of this stuff in your proposal rather than just relying on maybe one or the other. It's just a great way to kind of establish yourself as the most trusted, the most respected, the most professional contractor that they're going to deal with.
And it kind of leads into the next thing where 69% of people, trust roofers who use digital tools more than those who don't, which is a huge thing right there. And 63% of them, mostly the younger folks, are willing to pay more for digital conveniences. The fact that, like, when I was hiring out the electricians for my job, the people who were sending me and updating the quotes as we're talking on the phone and everything that was being sent to me again right off the bat made me pay more than the guy who was like, there was 3 guys cheaper. So it allows me to trust them a lot more. Now, again, you're seeing this intersect across all generations. 69% trust people with digital tools more than those that don't, and 63 will pay more on that aspect. So it's really interesting to see how that breaks down.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using digital tools, you come off as being a little bit more savvy, a little bit more tech advanced. And I think all those things play towards that relationship and trust factor, right? Like, oh, okay, these guys are on top of their stuff. These guys are going to be more proactive communicating because they're digitally responsive with this stuff. Like before, we're relying on getting at the kitchen table and face to face stuff. Now we can do it all in a fraction of the time, and we can do it in a really polished way. But like Nick said, just because you're using digital tools doesn't mean you can't use them in a traditional way. Create a really nice digital proposal. And if my customer wants to sit down at the kitchen table and go through it page by page with me, I'm totally capable of doing that. So it's going to benefit you either way to utilize tools like this, because even if I'm in that scenario, I'm still going to look super polished doing that.
You talked about the online review aspect there too, and how people are more and more often checking your Google reviews, checking your Facebook reviews, your Thumbtack, your Angie, all that stuff there. And what we saw was, and this one comes to no surprise, second part is more of a surprise to me, but 82% of people polled here checked for online reviews before hiring a roofer, which goes to what Pete's been saying for years, is get those reviews, get them going. And the part that surprised me is 86% will leave a review when asked. Automate that follow-up. Make sure in Roofr, you can say on the job's completed, send out an email and text saying asking for a review. And that allows you to get those and build that up. It also helps out, what we've seen is helps out with the Google SLA, will improve your ranking on your SEO and everything else and get you more visible across everybody else. So it's a big, big bonus to just get those reviews, add them into your proposals and everything else.
I think only like 38% of customers will take it upon themselves to leave a review if you don't ask for it. So the disparity is incredibly different, right? Like essentially 1/3 of your people are going to go on and review you. And let's be honest, the 38% that are reviewing you are probably not people looking to leave this great glowing review. It's maybe people that are not having the best experience that go on there and review. Where if we're asking all the time, or we have maybe an automation in place that automatically sends out a request for a review, right now we're looking at almost 9 out of 10 of our customers are going to leave us a review. And, the majority of those hopefully are going to be very good reviews, glowing reviews. It's an easy thing to ask for.
What I always tell salespeople is like the best way to become a good salesperson is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. You got to ask those awkward questions. So if you're uncomfortable with asking about a review, I get it. It's kind of weird. Like you're just gonna be like, hey man, can you give me a review, please? Like it will really help out. But if you just get comfortable with it and be like, hey, did you like your experience today? Did everything look good? Would you mind leaving a review behind? Because that's going to help other people find us and be able to open that up. And if you have any other referrals, be happy to take those on. By the way, we give a $25 gift card to any referral that you give. So you can tie that in. And then if they don't do it, then you can have that automation come through because it's easy. I got a tattoo last year and the person sent me an online review automation and I reviewed them. Otherwise, I would have totally forgot. I was in and out and that's it. So that kind of stuff makes a big difference. And then it helps people find you because people are looking for your reviews on so many different places. So being able to display it on multiple sites, so the search engine, so Google, you can put it on your website, on Facebook, on AI tools, especially nowadays.
If I go into Google and I search roofers near me, it's going to give me pages of roofers near me, right? I'm going to get probably 2 or 3 pages. Not that I'm going to make it to the second page, but there's going to be pages of roofers, right? If I go into ChatGPT and ask it for roofers near me, it's probably going to ask me for some certain criteria. And once I give it that criteria, it's probably going to come back with like maybe 3 or 4, right? So you got to think about what are we doing with our content? What are we doing with our website? All these things that help feed that tool. So if I'm going to ChatGPT and I say, hey, I got hit by hail, I've got missing shingles, whatever the case may be, show me some roofers near me that are reputable. What are you guys doing to get in that top 3 that ChatGPT is coming back with? Because it's not bringing back pages, it's bringing back a few, right? And so it's very kind of narrow scoped, so we want to make sure that we're getting in there.
Whether it's on your website, your instant estimator, Roofr's instant estimator will hold your Google reviews as well. just to show people, and it's social proof, right? People are able to see like, hey, there's other people like me that went through this situation and get them in. So it really helps a big deal. Luke got a client today that found him through AI, Gemini, and reviews were what got him the appointment. Ultimately, when you're looking at all this stuff, what we've all been talking about here is what the homeowners are looking for. So we know that they're looking for something professional, reviews, some like the in-person appointment, some like a digital. But the interesting part is like ultimately, this part was very surprising to me. It was 74% of these people will not sign a contract without an inspection. So being able to go out there, and as I mentioned before, a CRM is going to give you more time back in the day so that you can go out there and do those inspections. And now those inspections, because you have online measurements and the conversations, and you can build the proposal very quick, instead of taking 2 hours, an hour is going to take you around 30 minutes. You can do more in the day, but you're able to build this stuff out and get out to them faster. And then the other interesting point too is that homeowners are getting 3+ roofing quotes on average. People are more likely to go with the first quote. And we've said that before in the past. You're 40% more likely to get the job if you're the first person in the door, because everyone is going to be compared to you. And if you add an inspection in, it looks like that's going to be a big plus for you.
I mean, we often preach about being the first one in the door, right? I would much rather everyone else be compared to me than me be compared to everyone else that's come before me, especially if my proposal is super polished and really professional looking. I'm kind of setting the bar at that point. The odds that I'm going to win that, even after they go and talk to a couple other roofers, are pretty good at that point. But yeah, I thought this was an interesting stat. 74% won't sign it without an inspection. And I think a lot of that is just understanding what's going on, right? I was talking to a roofer just the other day about repairs, how important repairs are to his business, and how he's parlaying the repairs into so many re-roofs because the customers aren't calling saying, hey, I need a re-roof. The customers are calling and saying like, hey, I think I have a leak I need repaired. But everything is coming in like a repair. And then when he gets there, he realizes like this is far beyond repair and it needs to be a re-roof, right? And then he's able, because he did the inspection and he has the evidence, he's able to present it and explain to them exactly why it's not a repair and it actually needs to be a re-roof, and he can upsell them on that. And we talked about it I was talking even with one of our product managers the other day about our instant estimator, right? Because it's like, how many customers are really calling saying, I need to completely re-roof my house, right? It's like, oh no, some of my shingles are missing. Can you come fix that? Oh, I think I have a leak in my chimney. Can you come repair it? Right? So many of these conversations start off as a repair conversation. The inspection becomes hugely important because it becomes your selling tool. Your evidence from that inspection is how you can potentially upsell. I've seen so many contractors that find other things, right? Oh, your gutters are garbage. They need to be repaired. The hail didn't just hit your house and ruin your shingles. It ruined your siding. There are all these things that if we just ran with it without doing inspection, we probably would miss. It also makes the customer feel better, right? They trust you more if you come and physically taking a look at it.
We've talked about it in the past too. Like, you need to diversify your offerings. You can't be a one-trick pony in the roofing world anymore. People are adding a bunch of different options in there, whether it's windows, doors, gutters, whatever the case is. But a very easy way to go about it is just repair and replacement. You offer both. You a repair first company where you go in there and do an inspection and then identify like, hey, this is a bigger problem. These shingles are cooked. There's no way we can repair these. These are discontinued, whatever the case may be. My dad does rejuvenation as well as the full replacement. He's a repair first contractor. So he goes out there and takes a look at everything. He's just like, hey, yeah, I can do this repair. It's going to cost you $2,000 here. Or I can do the rejuvenation. It can cost you $4,000. Or we could do the full replacement. It's going to cost you $14,000. It really comes down into it. And I have to take a look, and people will call him for the rejuvenation possibly. He goes out there and goes, hey, by the way, your roof is cooked. I can't rejuvenate this. So we're going to need to replace it. But here are some options on that replacement front, a good, better, best, and break down the different options with it. And you did a great podcast with the Roofer of the Month, Cameron, who does rejuvenation and full replacement. He talks about that as well, right? So being able to do that, and that's not going to be able to get done without an inspection.
I did a podcast. He spent the first 2 years of business as a repair only contractor, a one-man show doing nothing but repairs. And he did so many repairs in the first 2 years of business that those customers then came back saying, hey, now it's time for me to go ahead and do, a full replacement. Can you jump on that? And he said, like in the beginning, he didn't even intend on being a roof replacement company and just doing repairs. And now he's doing both because it's all repeat business from the repairs that he did.
And it's always there, right? Like repairs happen and like not every roof needs to be replaced. So you have those options and you open that up. Ultimately, it's quicker payments. You can do multiple of those in a day. You have a good profit margin on it. And then the interesting part from the survey as well is that we saw that 75% are more likely to hire a roofer if they're offering online payment options. This one shocked me.
Yeah, me too.
I just am so used to people being like check first or can I pay cash, whatever the case is. But 75% are more likely to hire a roofer if they're offering online payments because being able to pay digitally was a deciding factor for 58% of them. And 22% of them said that online payments would have made the biggest difference. And this shocked me because I'm just so used to the world of a check.
Yeah.
I'm so used to the world of cash. But even just being easy enough to not have to go find a checkbook and write out a check for somebody and have that there and just be able to send an e-transfer or an ACH, that makes a big difference. And that has helped me decide on stuff too. Very happy to see, shocked, but happy to see that 75% of people agree with me on that.
I have to tell you a funny story. So the boys are going to a summer basketball camp and we were looking at the form to sign them up the other day. And at the bottom of the form, it actually says, make the check payable to this and mail it to this address to register them for camp. And we were like, what? My wife Ashley literally said, who the hell has checks today?
Dude, I have checks that I got like when I first opened my bank account and I don't know where they are. They're somewhere in my house. So it makes it a lot easier. By the way, shameless plug, Roofr Payments is some of the best rates in the industry, 2.8% on credit card, 0.5% on ACH. But having that as an option is really going to open it. There are going to be those people, 25% of it apparently, that are going to want to do check or cash or something like that. But this is going to allow you to open up for 75 more percent. And that, especially that 22% there. That 22% said it would have made a bigger difference if they were able to get that. So that is a huge portion of what you can add on to your business by just simply having the option for online payments.
Yeah, what really surprised me about this slide was the 58% number of people saying that being able to pay digitally was actually a deciding factor in choosing the roofer. You know, and the fact that they were weeding out people based on how they could pay was super shocking to me. I never thought of payments as a factor in whether or not a customer would choose a specific roofer. Like you said, more and more millennials buying homes, using roofers, it makes sense that number would be on the uptick. But the 58% of people saying, hey, this is one of the factors in picking who I use to roof, right? That really surprised me, you know, that it held that kind of weight in the process.
Got to get those airline points, man. Vacations, flights are
Maybe that's what it
expensive.
is.
If I could put the
Maybe
points
that's
on the
what it
card
is.
and I can go to Florida or to Kentucky to see my boy
gas.
Pete.
I need discounts on
Yeah.
gas right now, right?
Exactly. Diving into the takeaways here, the main things are like what we saw from this report. And again, read the full report. It's on our website. Joel put a link in it somewhere. You got to nail the customer experience, communicate often, and charge accordingly. Again, you could price your price instead of worrying about that by making sure that you nail that customer experience and communicate often. Automations are a big thing. Yeah, voice agents is a nice touch. But the main thing is being able to talk to that person, putting a face to face and making a big difference there.
This goes back to a conversation I had a number of IREs ago. We were on a podcast and one of the guys on the podcast literally said, at the end of the day, all of the good roofers are essentially roofing the same way, right? Like we're installing the same materials from the same manufacturers. So the only thing that's truly setting us apart is our customer experience. It's such a huge factor in deciding whether or not you get picked. How comfortable is that customer with you? And, you know, how bought in are they on the relationship?
And then the other thing is like you can change your homeowner pitch based on their age, their neighborhood, their priorities, and just ultimately like that high quality proposal is going to give you that high quality service to them. So that's going to make a big, big difference for all the customers. And that's what we saw across the board, right? They're all looking for that digital aspect, that trust factor, that communication, that experience, and shockingly that online payment part as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the proposal end of things, the biggest thing is like the changing of the times, right? The days of just being a group of line items and a sign here or a number on a Chick-fil-A napkin are behind us. Everybody wants that more polished proposal.
Those things make a big difference overall. And if we're able to do that for each one of our customers, you're going to see more wins come down the board. So that's really exciting.
Yeah. And like Nic said, the digital online payment one was a shocker, but a very interesting stat. And there's a number of other interesting stats in that homeowner takeaway that we didn't even get to today. So be sure you guys go check that out. There's some great stuff in there. Thank you guys for jumping on. I think we've kind of covered, I didn't really see a whole lot of questions, a lot of comments popping in there. I think we've covered most of them. I did want to touch on one interesting point when we were talking about the reviews. Flavio made a comment in the chat there. He said a lot of people don't like to review the contractor until they got some time under their belt with the roof, right? So they essentially want to wait for the winter or wait for a storm to make sure that it's not leaking and make sure it was installed properly, right? Luke made a comment about the birthday card of your roof thing. Nic talks about that quite often. That's from an old podcast that we did, and it's a great thing, to kind of follow up 1 year later. Hey, it's been a year since we did your roof. We're just checking in. It helps keep you top of mind. It's a great opportunity to kind of, if you haven't gotten a review on that customer, to kind of rehash that. Another opportunity to get them to review you. So very smart, Flavio. Once they've got some experience and they realize the roof is holding up like they hoped it would, jump on them and potentially get a review then.
Big opportunity there.
Feel free to reach out to our team, our support team, and our success group. If you guys are on a subscription with us, you have a success manager, all a great group and always willing to help. Hit us up and let us know. And we appreciate you guys all jumping on, and we will see you next time on the Roofr Masterclass. Thank you, everybody.
See ya.